Hello, and welcome to Going the Distance with Go Long. I am here with Kim Oser of Game Plan Organizing, and today's topic is going to be around planning for the college dorm move. Go Long is an accountability coaching service. Think of Go Long as someone who is the good angel telling you that you can do hard things. The good angel on your shoulder as opposed to that pesky bad angel. The good angel takes it over. We do coaching via text. Very simple. It's personalized so that if you don't have time to go meet with someone to talk about doing the things that you're not having time doing, guess what? You just get a text from me getting a reminder to go do that thing that you want to be doing. So with that, I want to introduce Kim. And I'm so excited to have you here because my nephew is going away to college this fall. And I'm sure my sister is very organized, but I'm sure that people like her are going to find out some amazing tips from you. So, Kim, why don't we start with how did you get into this? It's not like you major in this in college.
Certainly not. Thanks for having me, Jill. So I have been working as a professional organizer for 21 and a half years. And I count that half year because it's the longest I've ever had one boss. And I have to say she's the best boss that I ever had. However, I got into it because I had been working in pharmaceutical sales. And one of my things has always been I like to help people. And I got into pharmaceuticals because like many people will go into different types like medicine or different specialties. They've experienced something that there's been somebody who's helped them. And, in my case, I grew up as an asthmatic child, and without the medications and everything that I needed, my life would be very different. And so I'm a salesperson by nature. So it kind of happened to be a natural fit. And I did that for about 8 years. And the industry was changing. And one of the things that had been happening was my manager kept saying to me, "How come you never have any expired samples to return?" And I said, "Why would I have expired samples to return?" And he said, "Everybody does." And I said, "No, when you get a sample shipment, you pull everything out, you put the old stuff in the front, and you put the new stuff in the back, and you use up the old stuff first." So therefore, I never ended up with expired samples. So for my manager, it looked good on him because it was less work for him and there was less going to waste. So ended up, fast forward, lots of other things with similar stories. He was like, "I want you to go work with the whole team and help them be more organized, and then ultimately make his job easier." So, I always had this foundation of organization. I lived in a very organized household. Even though I didn't subscribe to it as a child, I was not great with putting my laundry away, but it was in my room and it was folded and I could find it. And I subscribed to the notion of you have to work with the child. Like, I think as parents, a lot of times people try to put children in a box of what they think is right for them. And that children doesn't always fit in that box. So you have to be adaptable. And that's what I specialize in is like, there's no cookie cutter organizational system. I listen to what the needs are and the challenges and the goals of the individuals I work with. And then I help them get there.
Yeah, because obviously you do organizing not just for college kids. You do organizing for other demographics as well. Like you help with downsizing, and we're going to talk about that in a separate show. If you're trying to downsize from like a big house to something smaller, moves, all of these things. So, there's no same situation.
Yes. And that's what I love about my job is that there literally are no two jobs that are the same ever. So it's hard to get bored.
Yeah. Now, you're based in the DC area.
Yes.
Right? But you have clients all over the place.
That's
correct?
Yes.
So we'll talk about that at the end. But the thing is that I want people to kind of think about this in terms of that when they're working with someone, that there are ways that you can work remotely with someone, particularly if your kid is going to school in a faraway place. How can you still get what you need, have it all taken care of without it being a hassle that you have to worry about loading everything into the station wagon, minivan, or SUV and drive it for, 15 hours.
Right.
Okay. All right. So, Kim, if we're talking about like, we're recording this on May 22nd. So unless you're waiting on a wait list, you know where you're going, right?
Right.
What's the general order in terms of what you've seen when people like need to start getting their act together in terms of planning the dorm room? Like if they could be tripled in some cases. Like, how does that start?
So, and there are quads in some places, like want to make it more complex.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, like
In one room?
in one room.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like 2 sets of bunks with like
Oh my
4
gosh.
dressers. Yeah. Yeah, but that's a unique situation at some universities.
Right.
But I think the key to avoiding the chaos that happens as you get closer is to start now with your planning. So roommate assignments are probably either coming out or have come out, or it's very different than when you and I went to college. So if there's parents listening that, are closer to our age, you unless you knew someone growing up, you kind of were matched up with someone and that was who your roommate was.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now I guess there's like people go on Facebook groups, like kids go on Facebook groups and they meet and they talk to them and they end up living with a friend of a friend or somebody that they met on Facebook group. And sometimes that works out perfect. And sometimes it seems like it's going to work out perfect. And then they get to school and they realize this is not the person I thought they were. But the key to avoiding the chaos is to start having discussions now and to primarily start asking questions. And I do have a list of questions that people can download that gives them like where to go to find out information.
Oh, great. All right. So we'll link to that
Yeah.
in the show notes.
Yeah. So it's like things like the resident life. And again, very different from when we went to college, but go to YouTube, and a lot of these kids are either influencers or they want to be influencers and they record their move-in process.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so you see them from them packing the car, hopping in the car with mom and dad, the roadside, to pulling up to the university, unpacking the car. And a lot of universities are much more efficient now. They have a team that comes and meets you at your car and unloads the car and dumps it into a bin and brings it upstairs to, or, wherever your dorm room is.
Right.
So it's very different, but you can get a lot of information by going on TikTok and putting in, like in the search, the university, the dorm name. You might even see your exact room number.
Oh, wow. Gosh, this is
Yeah.
definitely very different. I was part of the move-in crew,
Yeah.
like in terms of like getting the dollies and like helping people unload and stuff. But this is obviously like a completely different level.
Well, you have so much more information now, like with everything else,
Yeah.
there's so much more information.
Right.
So, I would suggest that there's that. And coincidentally enough, like watching friends post their kids' pictures when they moved into university a couple of years ago, I messaged them and I was like, hey, does she live next to this person? Because I saw their pictures with their kids in front of the dorm. One was in California, one was in DC.
All
Same
right.
dorm, one floor different.
Oh, wow.
I was like, they have to meet each other, and that kind of stuff. So you can get a lot of information on social media that we didn't have, and also YouTube.
Right.
So I would check there. Sometimes the universities have a blog that's written by students, and so you get it kind of like straight from the horse's mouth as to like, here are the things that you should know. And that's usually like in the university's resident life sections on their websites. Most universities have a incoming parents Facebook group.
Oh, okay. It's like, you mean an official like university, not
Well,
like
I think it's kind of put together. I think sometimes you have to like join those things, and then you may want to snooze them.
or lurk, you mean?
Yeah, like so that you're not hearing some of the questions, because I've had to tell people like you need to not believe everything you see on the Facebook group as gospel.
Right.
Because it's just creating anxiety for you.
Yeah.
You're probably driving your child nuts.
Right. Okay.
But it is a good place for people to get information, because somebody may find out something that you don't find out. And then you can pick up some tips there. I think the other thing is to find out. So I find that often people are not reading as much as they should.
Yes.
So to find out what comes in the dorm room, so like, does it include a chair? Because whether you're shipping stuff on Amazon and not renting a car, flying in and not renting a car, or
Right.
you're driving, and a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll rent a vehicle and they'll drive, depending on their distance, drive one way and then drop the vehicle off and fly home.
Right.
So they will be stuck with the nightstand that didn't fit, the stool that didn't fit, the multiple things that both your child and their roommate also brought, with no way to get it home. And then you're like Ubering to the UPS store to either return to Amazon, which you may be past your return window.
Yeah. Yep. If you've ordered it well in advance.
Yes. And then also it's expensive to ship it home.
Yeah. And
So-
you may not have any use for it, no less. So
Oh yeah. Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so then you're SOL.
It could be that one item that the child, Mom, I definitely have to have it.
Right.
And then it doesn't fit. So the more you can find out about the size of the room, what's included in the room, what your roommates are bringing, so that one person's ordering the fridge, and some dorms have these fridge microwave combos that you rent together. Talk to your roommate, like, do you sleep with a sound machine, like a noise machine, and those type of things, so that you guys are having everything you need without cramping yourself into a really small spot.
Yeah, some coordination. I mean, what's funny is that we were allowed to have fridges, but microwaves were like off limits. Now, that didn't mean that they weren't maybe strategically covered under something.
Oh yeah, I had a hot pot in my closet.
Yeah. The hot pots. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the takeaway here is if you can coordinate with your roommate or roommates
Mhm.
to assess like what you're bringing and having that spatial awareness of like, hey, like you got to think about the beds and the location and how many chairs and everything else. The more legwork you can do, the better.
Right.
And if you and be prepared that shit's not going to fit in the room, and what are you going to do about that?
Yeah. I actually dropped a friend of mine was dropping off her daughter, and she was dropping off the rental car that she had rented. And I, if you know Washington Reagan National Airport,
Well, I think everyone knows Reagan National Airport these days.
Yeah, but the rental cars is in a garage, and you can only get into the rental car garage if you have a rental car. So if someone is dropping off a rental car, there's really no way to pick them up, because you know how like when you go into a rental car thing, they have like those spikes so you can't go backwards? Yeah, so you literally are like picking them up on the side of the road. So there was my friend with like these boxes and stuff, and I was like, I'm pulling over illegally, hop it. Like we're like off of
Oh God, yeah.
and there she
Yeah.
was like running down the access road at Reagan National to throw this stuff in my car to go to the UPS store. So
So yeah, I mean, we're joking around about it, but these are important logistics that if you're carrying a bunch of furniture, going like even 500 feet is a lot of work.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay, that's really helpful. So you've done your legwork. You know about, okay, I'm going to do this, and let's assume that it's mostly going to fit in. What are the basics? Let's talk about the basics that most people need, because I'm guessing, there's a bed, there's a mattress.
Right.
There's probably a desk for two people, two desks,
Right.
two chairs.
Right.
What else is generally in a dorm room?
Not much.
Not much else, right? So that much hasn't changed.
Yeah. So it really, that's pretty much it, because they usually have built-ins on one wall that is dresser and hanging space.
Okay, yeah, dresser.
Yeah. But they're usually built in, so they're not usually like movable.
Okay.
Yeah. And sometimes there's like a little hutch on the desk for you to put things on.
Right.
It's not like there's shelving and that kind of stuff. There's not like a whole lot of place for decor and for like those type of things. And so what I suggest to people is to go vertical whenever they can.
Yep.
So get whatever they can. So if the desk does not have a hutch, is to get like more for, if you think about for the female college students, they're going to want stuff to like put their makeup
Yeah.
because they'll probably end up sitting at their desk. So if you think about it, if I take a step back and you think about it and you're like, okay, we've got this little small room, but it serves as my study space, my sleeping space, my relaxation space, my place to put on like my makeup and whatever, or like, hang out and listen to music, whatever. So if you think about it and you try to like zone out the space so that you're maximizing what you've got, and like also you're thinking about storage. And again, something that's very different from when we grew up is I kind of call it the princess and the pea with the way they make their beds. So we lofted beds, no big deal. We lofted beds.
Yeah, we lofted beds. I had a bed on cinder blocks.
Yeah, well, I had a bed. It scares me to think about it now, but the way my bed was set up. But underneath my bed was a chair and a desk.
Yeah.
And I had no fear of the bed collapsing the way it was set up, which was really quite scary. But they make them different now. and
we're Gen X. We didn't worry about
I know,
things
and I'm
collapsing.
sure the kids don't think about like the dangers of some of the stuff they
parents do, but like my parents did not think twice.
So funny enough, I was helping a student a couple of years ago, and usually the beds come in at like the normal height when you walk into the dorm room. Mm-hmm. And I knew that chances are that the child wanted to loft their bed. So I brought a rubber mallet with me. And I YouTubed a video. It was at Georgetown University, and I YouTubed a video, and I was like, lofting your bed at Georgetown University. And it told me how to do it. So I got there to the student and I said, okay, did you want to loft your bed so that you can put drawers and stuff underneath? And not lofting it like a true loft, but elevating it.
Right, enough.
Yeah. And the way that the beds at most schools are now is they have like 4 different notches. So you can choose the height. So you basically like flip the bed over and bang it with a rubber mallet and put it in the height you want and bang it with the rubber mallet again. But who thinks to carry a rubber mallet?
Well, you do, apparently.
Oh, I do, but I was in my car. But one of the things that, one of the items I suggest is IKEA makes this little toolkit. So if you're near an IKEA, and it has a hammer and a screwdriver, and I think it has like a tape measure in it, and a couple like picture hanging hooks and whatever. And one of the things that it has on it with the hammer is like a little rubber tip that you put on the hammer to make it a rubber mallet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's like literally.
Do you have to go to an IKEA to get it and like deal with the whole like walking through the maze, or can you order it online?
You can order it online, but there's a new thing. I don't know if they have them out near you, but there's a new thing called it's a pickup point. IKEA pickup point. There's one like 2 miles from my house.
Okay, an IKEA pickup point.
Yeah, so I go online and I can order what I want from IKEA, from the big store that happens to be in College Park by University of Maryland. And then when I go to check out, it's like, do you want it shipped? And I choose the Gaithersburg, Maryland pickup point.
Oh, so it's like Amazon, where they have those Amazon drop boxes.
Right. So 2 days later, I get a notification, your item's ready to be picked up. I pull up front, I tap in, I'm here, like Target, I'm here. And then I have to just go in and pick it up.
I mean, I think that's what's great now, too, is that you can order from Target and have it delivered. If your kid is going to school in another state, right, you can do all of this remote ordering and everything else. You just have to be careful with the bigger stuff, obviously, in terms of just like the space that you have.
Right.
But like even like toiletries and everything else, like you don't have to schlep that stuff. You can just literally sit there and be like, all right, and and just send it.
So to that point, one of the questions that you should ask, whether it's at like your orientation or whether it's on one of these groups online, and Reddit is another place that you can find information.
Yeah. Reddit's been making a comeback.
Yeah, is to ask about package deliveries. So how far ahead can you send them? How big a package can you send? I know.
Well, where do you pick it up? Like, is it going to be at the dorm, or do you have to go to some central place to pick everything up? Because like that would be a lot. That would be a lot of overhead for, like the RAs running a particular dorm. That would be insane.
Right. So that's one of the questions that you should ask. And it may be on like the resident life section on the university's website, but I'm sure you could get answers or tricks as to how to get your stuff that way.
Yeah. There's always another way.
Yeah. 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 So, but yeah, so, and like what I was saying, like going vertical in the closets, having like a hanging sweater, thing that has like 4 sections.
Yep.
You
I
can put
remember
like,
those things.
yeah, you can put like your bulky items in there,
Yep.
because if, depending on the climate where you are, your sweatshirts and sweaters and that kind of stuff. And, 2 fit the whole drawer, like the whole drawer is taken up. So by using some of the hanging space that way, you can do it that way. And then, if your dorm room closet doesn't have a second bar, you can buy a little kit to make a second bar so you can double hang.
What do you think is the most underrated compatibility factor? You know what I
Um,
mean?
yeah, unfortunately, I
Like,
think it's
where have you seen the biggest, like, total mismatches where people thought like, "Hey, I'm a huge football fan. I'm a huge football fan. We're gonna be great roommates." And
yeah, like,
then
we'll
there's
go to all the
obviously a
games together, and I'm
yeah,
a complete slob and
right. So,
have
what
no
do you
respect for
think
your space. I mean, I think that's unfortunately where the misses are, and that's so hard to read because, unless you spent time with somebody,
Mhm.
it's hard to say,
Yeah,
like, I'm an organized person. Okay, does that mean that your laundry goes in a hamper and you do your laundry and you put it away? Or does that mean that when your friend comes over to spend the night and the air mattress is out, the air mattress stays out for 3 months?
yeah,
Or the your food waste, meaning like,
yeah.
I don't
Your
know,
food wrap yeah, it's, like,
your wrapper.
gross.
Yeah, it is gross. Um, yeah, I mean, trust me, some of the things I've seen are
Mhm.
pretty gross. So I mean, that's why I say like that's kind of hard, and that's why kind of really talking to somebody and really being like asking questions. I know it sounds annoying.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awkward. Like, you don't wanna be like, "Are you a slob or are you, like, anally neat?"
Yeah, but like if you ask them, be like, I don't know, like do you put your clothes away? I mean, I hate to say, for me, living in a smaller space forced me to be more organized.
Right,
And I find that for some people, like, even when they travel, they're more organized when they travel because they don't have all these other things sitting out.
right.
But then I've also been traveling with people that they're stuff everywhere on the floor, and I'm like, "We've only been here for 14 hours." You know? So, I think that's a really tricky one, but I just think kind of having a conversation and
And sleep schedules probably too.
right, right.
Um,
Where do you study? Do you study in the room? Do you study the music? Do you have
right,
the TV? The TV is a big one because, um, I find that with the male students, more of them bring TVs because it's for gaming
right.
than the female students, because the females would rather go out socially and,
Mhm.
watch TV in the lounge or whatever.
Right.
But the male students, the TV and the Xbox are big
You know what
things.
that gets me thinking? They're probably people don't bring stereos anymore
Mm-mm.
because everything just they play off of their phone and they play, their Spotify lists.
Right, right. And if you know, there are some people that prefer to have the music in the background, and there's some people
Yeah.
that prefer to have their headset on.
Right, right.
You
All
know,
right, so that's helpful. I think those are a couple of things that people maybe need to think about sleep schedules and like kind of like tidiness factor,
right,
how they plan on using the room. I also liked when you said you're almost like as a parent, you almost want to envision your kid and being like, okay, here are going to be the things that you're going to be doing in the dorm room. Like almost like not flow chart it, that seems extreme, but just list out the things you're going to be doing. You're going to be doing your makeup. You're going to be getting dressed. You're going to be
right,
doing these things. And so, in order for you to do these things, you're going to need this stuff. And now we got to figure out how to do that in a way that doesn't take up every inch of the
right,
room.
right. And one of the things like with that, if you have the ability to do a like behind the door organizer,
Right.
you can use for storage behind the door. Some places you can, some places you can't, based on like the door width and that kind of stuff. And again, those are like tips that you can find online. But usually on the door, there's no problem with command hooks. Some places have really specific things about whether you can use a push pin or command hooks on the walls.
Right.
So those are like the questions to ask.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
most of them allow you to use command strips for like hanging pictures and that kind of stuff. Like I was saying, like for the females, some sort of like drawer thing for the desk to sit on top of the desk for like their makeup and their makeup mirror and all that.
So it sounds like lots of caddies.
Lots of caddies.
Lots of
So
caddies.
that brings me to something else. So like if we go back to lofting the bed,
Yeah.
you know, you and I are not tall.
No, we're not tall.
So,
If you've never met either one of us in person, you will know that we're just going to be up front and just say that Kim and Jill are
I'm the
not.
tall one at 5'3".
Yeah, Kim's a giant compared to me at like,
Yeah.
barely 5 foot with my hair sticking up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So, but if you think about that, if you're lofting the bed, okay, well, how are you getting onto it? And so, what I recommend is some sort of storage cube that can hold weight. That could be either like, number one, my favorite thing for storage cubes for some reason, because I feel like it just kind of keeps them neat and orderly, is like sheets or towels. They're folded, they're in there. Usually the storage cube can slide under the bed. But if you need it to use as a step, you pull it out to use as a step, or if a friend comes to visit and they want to hang out and they're sitting on the storage cube, it becomes a seat, it becomes very multifunctional.
right. So, what I would love to know, what is it that parents tend to think their kids need that never end up getting used? Like, what do parents spend money on that ends up being like, yeah, I should have just gone with, basic Target or Amazon no frills brand?
I don't want to say a brand name, but there's an online brand that sources things that are usually self-assembly, and they're very high priced, and it's usually the female students.
Okay.
But they're great, very pretty, they're very aesthetic, they're very on trend, but they tend to
I want to guess, but I know you're not going to tell me.
I'm not
But
gonna tell you.
I want to guess though.
You can text me after.
All right, I'll text you after.
Yeah.
But anyone who wants to know, they'll have to text me to get the answer.
Yeah. Yeah. But like that kind of thing that is, we're talking like in the $300+ range.
Yeah.
Where, a simple cart, like one of my favorite things for like a nightstand, is again, like think about the height, because if you're lofting your bed, so you want something that's a little bit taller.
Mhm.
And there are some nightstands there's like one that they sell at the Container Store that has drawers in it. So there's storage below it, or bins in it. So there's storage below it. And then there's USB ports
Oh wow. Yeah, of
on
course.
it. Yeah. So like that's also something to think about is, the number of multiple outlets and USB ports, because everything, even more so now, like little simple things, the little small blenders that a lot of
Right.
people use in the dorm for their smoothies and stuff, those are USB charged.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like your headset's USB charged,
Yep.
your watch is USB, everything is USB.
Yeah.
So you have to, and they're not all USB-C, like they're not all the same.
Yeah. You have to have like the adapters between USB and USB-C.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect as well.
Yeah.
So, okay. So there's that. What are the things that people sleep on that they end up needing in the dorm room?
Well, I find that that's in the minority, that there's usually overabundance and lack of.
Okay. Fair enough.
Because the Amazon 2-day Prime, it's like
Right.
anything you forgot,
Yeah.
and again, like even it's
And if
different
you're in a
now.
place with the drones, like the drones are coming to Seattle, like we're going to get delivery in like an hour.
Oh, really?
So like people at University of Washington are going to be set.
Well, and I will tell you, like it's crazy. If you haven't been on a college campus lately, the little robots that deliver the food.
I'm gonna have to go walk around UW a little bit more, I guess.
Yeah. So you go on the campuses and there's like these little robots that, and they see traffic and they see this. I mean, I understand they get in accidents sometimes, but they, it's like completely crazy that, yeah. So kids get food despite being on a food plan delivered a lot. So
Okay.
Yeah, it's just very different culturally. But that's another section of like, you know, where are my supplies going to go? So if you bring a smoothie with you, if your student brings a smoothie with them, or, they like certain things, to make sure that they have reusable containers and plastic forks and like that kind of stuff. So some sort of kitchen supplies as well. So it's like another zone that they have.
Yeah.
So it's another one that goes in one of those bins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. So what are some of the myths that you have to dispel when you're working with a family?
Yeah.
I'm sure
Well,
people come in with a lot of preconceived stuff based on their own experience, which obviously has changed quite a bit. I mean, it would change with any generation, to
Yeah.
be fair,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But what are some of the big myths that you're generally like, okay, I know this probably thinks that this is how it works, but that's not exactly how it plays out in reality?
So there's a couple, but I think the biggest myth is that people think it has to be chaos, and it doesn't. Like if you plan, it doesn't need to be chaos. And so
Right.
that's why the focus is like on planning. And I will say that I know you're a fan of AI.
Yeah.
If you put in AI like what you're trying to accomplish and be like, give me a plan, and
Hmm.
you tell them like where the student is going and what resources they have. And one of my favorite things with AI is, here's what I'm trying to accomplish. Like, here's my situation. Here's what I'm trying to accomplish. Ask me 10 questions to help me create a plan.
That's great. I love that prompt.
And then
And
the
it's very
AI,
approachable.
yeah, the AI comes back and it asks me these questions. And I was like, I don't know how you know that. Like, it's creepy, scary, but it'll help you create like a timeline for when to do things. It's so that's very helpful to help avoid some of that chaos. I
Right.
think another myth is that a lot of times, like someone will say to me, like, "Oh, well, we're coming up. We're going to be up for 4 nights," and I'm like, "Why?"
Your kid does not want you there.
Right?
Like,
Okay, if your move-in time is at 2 o'clock, okay, fine. Your move-in time is at 8 a.m. That's fine, because they're usually like assigned move-in times.
yeah.
So they could come the night before,
Hmm.
have dinner, sleep in the hotel room, and then it's like, let your kid fly. So like on move-in day, so if you come in the night before, you move in, you should be out of there at some point the next day,
Yeah.
because they need to learn how to fly.
And there's so many variables. So I went up early for soccer, so a lot of things weren't open yet. So my dad left, but the other person who was there for soccer, her parents stayed up and they like took me out for dinner, which was very nice of them. But that's like the exception, because normally on the day that everybody moves in, the dorms are open, the dining halls are open, and all you want to do is just be like GTFO.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
I
exactly.
want to like meet people, I want to do things.
Right.
And so I think that's a really great thing to kind of highlight, is that like, yeah, your kid loves you, right? That's not a myth,
Right.
but but it is a myth that they're going to want you hanging around.
Right. And that there's gonna be stuff for you to do.
Right.
It's like once you're gone, do you want your child to have you like on text, like, hey, mom, where do I find this? That kind of stuff constantly. Or can you help me with this? Like, you kind of got to give them that space to fly and be independent.
Yeah.
And so I think that, that's part of the college experience, is learning that independence.
Oh, absolutely. If you're living in a dorm, you have to. I always say I actually learned more in the dorm than I did in the classroom. And I mean, yeah, I learned a decent amount in the classroom, but there's learning about people and people from different backgrounds and how they run their lives. And that's really the education
Right.
that is really, I think, pertinent for your post college life,
Right.
is understanding people and different perspectives, but just different ways of like how people run.
Right. And realizing that not everybody's the same, and that, and that's where I was saying, like with the parents, I think that the parents think that, like, they always know best.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, okay, they have to allow you to learn and make some mistakes and figure some things out.
So Kim, this is good. So one of the other things I kind of want to shift to a little bit is around, I'm going to be candid, Kim is affiliated with the Container Store, a lot of great deals there. whether someone or not works with you, right? If someone is thinking about like, oh, I want to like kind of, so like my nephew's going to college out of state, like probably like 14-hour drive away from where my sister lives, give or take, but long enough. Do they just like sit there and go on, Target, Walmart, whatever, and just order it? I mean, and it's just, or Container Store and just order it? Like, how does that work for someone? Like, how does that play? It sounds cool in theory, but how does that actually work in reality?
So I came up with last year, I came up with a list of like my top things and I in my descriptions of each one, and I'll share that with you.
Yeah.
Is my why I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Is it space saving? Is it multifunctional? And so I just kind of, my focus personally is maximizing space and being able to find things.
Mm-hmm.
So I yes, it's a small space. So innately it's going to be tight.
Yeah.
But trying to give yourself some space to breathe and to not feel like things are closing in. And so I would look for a list that resonates with you and hits all those main topics, like the different zones. I think that's the biggest key is like, okay, what do I need for hanging space? What do I need for, if the child's an athlete, like, what can I store in the locker room so that everything doesn't need to be in the dorm room. One thing that people often forget, and it tends to be a bigger challenge with the male students who have big feet, is shoes. So you think about like shoes and, if a man's wearing a size 13 shoes, well,
right.
That takes up a lot of space,
Right.
So you kind of got to like think about like those kind of things and, where that might not be as important for a female.
You mean like a 5'3" and like a 4'11" female?
Yeah. My shoes take up a whole lot less space than, my sneakers are a lot smaller. But, like for me, it's I wouldn't need as much a shelf. I could probably stick my pairs of shoes like on the edge underneath my bed where, a male who has a large shoe size is going to need more space for that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still the same size room.
Yeah. I'm wondering also, I mean, right now we're talking a lot about organization, but another thing that happens in college is around understanding time management. And there's no one there to kind of guide you on that time management. Do you ever provide like ideas on gadgets or certain apps or anything in terms of your organization services? I feel like time and space go hand in hand. Do you ever kind of give any advice in terms of how that adjustment happens?
Well, I think, and again, that goes back, yes, but that goes back to the child, to the student, is are they, a paper planner type person?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they a digital person? And I think that the different categories, and I have information on this as well, but the different categories is
all right. We'll link to that too.
Yeah, is like your academics, your set schedules, when your classes are.
Right.
So and usually like at the beginning of the year with your syllabus, whatever, you kind of have an idea of when exams are, or papers might be due. But then it's to build in those blocks in between to allow yourself that time for that time management piece. So to block yourself space in between. There is a thing called Skylight Calendar. Are you familiar with that?
I am not.
Okay, so Skylight Calendar is a digital frame. I think they make a 10-inch and a 15-inch. And it's a digital frame, and it basically, you can put a picture as like the screensaver on it, so it looks just like a picture frame.
Okay.
Or you can, if you touch it, it goes to your calendar.
Okay.
So it'll pop up with like reminders, and you can visually see it so that you and it syncs with whatever it syncs with your Outlook or your Google Calendar.
Oh, okay.
Or iCal, whatever. So it syncs.
I mean, obviously, it's only as good as people putting in the data.
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Like,
Yeah.
it's like signing up for food tracking and not putting in the food that you're eating.
Right. It's like paying for the gym and then not going
Yeah.
and wondering why you're not getting results.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So have you seen that being effective with this demographic of college kids?
I have some kids get very into it. Things move so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Kids like what's on trend.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen some kids have really good success with it because they rely on it. Like when they're in their dorm, and I kind of think of it as if you put your phone away to avoid a distraction of your phone.
Right.
Because we know what happens. You pick up your phone and be like, oh, let me see what I've got going on later. And then 20 minutes later, you've checked in on Facebook and you scroll through Instagram. And then you put your phone down and you're like, oh, wait, what was I trying to do? Oh, wait, I need to go see when I have availability.
I thought that was only menopausal women that happened to.
Well, I don't know. I'm right there with you. But hey, I think it's all the kids too. I mean, trust me, my niece, she's 27 now. But when she lived with me, she'd be like, oh, I'm going to go do this. And then I'll let you know. And then I would ask her like 45 minutes later and she'd be like, what? And I'll know that she was like liking things on Instagram and this and there. So it's the way that those things suck you in. But if you had a calendar that didn't have social media on it and it strictly was your calendar and you could add events there and it would sync with your phone so you could get alerts on your phone and all that, it's one more way to, in terms of like the productivity, avoid that distraction of getting sucked in by all the other things that our phone does.
Okay, that's helpful. Yeah, because I think that's the other thing you have to learn in terms of time management is, figuring out how to manage your time without like your parents being like, did you do your homework and everything else? Because your parents aren't there. And I mean, I don't know. Obviously, it's a lot easier for people to talk to their parents all the time if they wanted to.
Oh, yeah. Text.
But, at some level, you do have to learn how to function.
Right.
As an independent entity.
Right. So and it's kind of like what you and I were saying is like, that was, to me, that was one of the biggest benefits of college was, that learning of living with other people and having to be responsive. And there's reason why I started out away, not staying local for college.
Right.
It was like, I need to go out and not rely on my parents to be like, hey, come home and have, dinner with us and bring your laundry. So, and that's like another key part about it too, is like laundry.
Yeah. Does your kid know how to do laundry?
Well, and that's one of my suggestions now is that if your child does not do their own laundry, and if your child has somebody that comes and, changes their sheets for them and this, that, and the other, now cut those services off at the beginning of the summer and let them figure it out on their own. Like remind them that they have to do their sheets, but so that they get in the habit of changing their sheets. And
how many pairs of sheets and how many towels would you say, like, you need to send away your kid with?
So I always say that the sheets there should be at the absolute most. My recommendation is 2.
Okay.
But the absolute most would be 3. Because there might be one that's dirty, one that's on the bed, and then one that's clean in case they're having some.
There's extracurricular activities going on?
There's extracurricular. They're having something to eat in the bed. They're, they're drinking a smoothie in the bed. Oops, I fell asleep. Painting their nails in the bed. I
love how you're trying to work around all these things that we know that college kids do.
Yes. And including not changing their sheets.
Yes. But I love how you're trying to work all around this. This is hysterical.
Yeah. So that's why I'm like, that's also me knowing that ideally they could change their sheets, take them off and wash them and put them back on,
So, for a while, there was a quarter shortage, especially during COVID, because of, and it impacted a lot of people. Like, this is very serious, people who can't afford to have like a washer and dryer in their homes. And so I wonder, are all the laundry machines on campus, are they credit card driven now?
Well,
for the most part?
They either are that or they're like on like with the university, like kind of like meal plan type thing that they tap their student ID.
So you don't need coins.
Most places you don't need coins, or they have a coin machine in the room, in the
dorm, in the laundry room or something.
Yeah. And that's also a big thing is like before mom and dad leave, find out where the laundry room is.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't do laundry for 6 weeks and you're like, hi, can you send me socks and underwear because I don't have any more? And they're like, where did you do with all yours? And they said, it's in the laundry. And they said, when are you going to do it? I don't know where the laundry is.
I might have done that. Not like said I didn't know where the laundry was. It might have been just pure laziness.
Oh, well, there were certain things that I just had to have my parents send me, even though I could go down the street and get right by myself.
I mean, I definitely had an aversion to doing laundry.
Oh,
All right, Kim, what else haven't we covered that you think that parents need to know?
Number one, they're not the first person to do this. And their child is not the first one that could be difficult or be indecisive. Or could be, I've got it. And then like 4 days before, you're like, what about this? And they're like, I don't have it. What? That kind of the, what?
Mhm.
So I think that for parents, it's to talking to other parents and, getting the support and then speaking with their child and just kind of having open dialogue. And I think more so of, I'm here to help provide you guidance to make sure you have everything you need,
Mhm.
so that they don't take it as, I got it. You know?
Right. And understand that that text is going to come through and being like, shit.
Yeah.
I thought I had this. It's going to happen.
Right. Well, the parents won't even be driving 20 minutes towards the airport until they get that first text. Do you know where my da-da-da-da-da's? And then the response is like, you told me you didn't need that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Kim, I've really enjoyed this conversation. It was exactly what I was hoping it would be, just really candid. You're affiliated with the Container Store. So if someone wanted to reach out to you,
Yeah.
what's the best way for someone to get in contact with you if they were going to be like, yeah, we want like the Kim Oser template of things for the dorm room,
Okay.
right? With maybe a little bit of customization because I just found out my kid's in a triple.
Yeah. So, two things. One, to explain my affiliation with the Container Store is I'm a contracted organizer by them, with
Mhm.
them. And so it's specific to my local store that I have the affiliation with. And what it basically means is that when somebody comes in there and says something like, I'm buying all this stuff, can you come to my home and help me make it make sense?
Uh-huh.
And they're like, we can't, as Container Store employees, we can't come to your home, but if you're nearby, we have somebody, and they provide my information. So I do all my own booking with the people that they refer to me.
Okay.
But I am on Instagram, Game Plan Organizing.
Mm-hmm.
And I will give you my website is gameplanorganizing.com.
Yep.
And I will give you like my LinkedIn and my email for your show notes.
Yep.
So you'll have them all there. But I do provide weekly tips on Instagram. And I also try to provide some humorous things because I think everybody always thinks that they're the only one. And so I try to find content that is humorous that makes us feel like, okay, I guess I'm not the only one that does that, but I really should get rid of some of this crap.
Yeah. And I mean, there may be also Commanders content as well.
Oh, yeah.
Kim is a long-time season ticket holder of the
Yes.
Washington Commanders, her and her dad.
Yes.
So we could still be friends even though I'm a Giants fan, but
I
the
know.
Giants have been pitiful, so there's really not much to talk about.
Oh, trust me, I'm very happy our opening game is a 1:00 game versus the Giants.
Yeah. I don't really have anything to say.
Yeah.
I don't have a good enough retort for it other than if you don't win, then that's pretty pathetic.
I know. And that's kind of what I'm predicting after being a fan for so long.
Yeah. Kim, what's the one thing? There's got to be one thing that people always sleep on. And I'm not talking about a bed, but like they just sleep on in terms of remembering that they need to like purchase and leave with their college-aged kid.
So the one thing that I found, and I just experienced this recently when I was helping pack up a student at Georgetown at the end of when he was graduating, is, when you move everything into the dorm, you bring luggage, duffel bags, these big IKEA bags, all those type of things. And then you unpack everything and mom and dad are like, let us get all the stuff out of here that you don't need. and they take everything with them. And then come
Oh.
the end of the year, or they're coming home for winter break and they have nothing to carry their stuff in. They have nothing to, like, you need to leave the big body duffel bag and something that they can come home on breaks for. So at the end of the year, so the student that I packed up, literally we packed in, he used a laundry service, and we packed his clothing in the duffel bag from the laundry service, and he took them on the plane, and everything else, I put all the hangers, all the stuff that was on hangers, I made a little hole in a trash bag. I put it in my car and I drove it to the UPS pack and ship. And for $187, I shipped it home to him.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I actually do have another question. This made me think. I found, do most college towns have like storage places that you could store your stuff in between like school years?
Yeah, and that's very common. So there's
Because that's what I did.
yeah, that's what I did too. But there's actually another step that's beyond that now that a lot of colleges have. They have these services, and like around here, there's 2 that work with the local universities that they you sign a contract with them. They drop off boxes, packing tape, packing material, labels, and you pack everything. You take a picture of what's in the box, and then you upload. What I've done for students that I've packed is I create an inventory of what's in a box, what the box looks like, everything that's in it, and then the service has an agreement with the universities. So the students pack up all the boxes, tape everything up, put the labels on them, whether they get shipped home or whether they get stored locally. And then they leave, and then the service comes in and picks up all the boxes. And then next year in the fall, what they do is, whether you're in an offsite apartment or whether you're in a different dorm or even in the same dorm, they drop them off. And if you're in the university, they drop them inside your dorm room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but most places do have, if someone's living in an apartment, whatever, they, and they have a car, they can rent local storage.
I would also imagine that in terms of luggage, like you need a weekend bag.
Yep.
Like if you're going to go road trip to visit like your buddies.
Yep. Yeah.
You need a bag like that as well. Like, I mean, obviously you don't need like a massive suitcase, but you just need like, some kind of tote
right.
thing
Well,
that you can just throw.
Say like a, if you think about, most people have like a roller carry-on bag.
Right.
But then if you're doing like a weekend with some friends, a duffel bag that you can squeeze into a ball this big.
Exactly.
And shove in somewhere. And that's why I say like, I it's not the right term, but camp bags, like big duffel bags, because they can squeeze into like nothing and, be hidden in that top cupboard or something like that that's behind something and not take up much space. But then at the end of the year, you've got something, whether you're storing it or whether you're, taking it home with you, you've got something to put your stuff in.
Well, the thing with soft-sided bags too is that they collapse and take up a lot less room.
Yep.
That's the upside. Yeah. All right, cool.
Yes. So that's the one thing that people forget. And and buying luggage at the end of the school year is not cheap. And I will tell you from the students that I've packed, more than one, that usually when I come to pack and I say, "Where is your luggage?" they say, "Oh, what?" That's how I ended up at the UPS pack and ship last week.
Oh my gosh. All right.
Yep.
So if people want to get in touch with you to kind of just like talk to you, like in terms of getting advice, they can contact you at one of those mechanisms that you stated, and we can go from there. But I really appreciate your time. I appreciate your insights, sharing it with the community, and we will get this out in June. This will be published in June. And with that, I just want to close out by saying, this is again Going the Distance with Go Long. I'm Jill Consor-Beck. This is Kim Oser, my guest from Game Plan Organizing. And as I said, Go Long provides accountability coaching for women 40 plus who deserve better. They want to deserve better. And we do it by text. And so it's personal, it's bespoke, it's timely, and it's not a pain in the ass unless you want it to be a pain in the ass. So with that, it's your life. Go the distance, go long.